PR is my favorite top of the funnel channel and tactic because it's got the broadest awareness. You can reach a number of targeted people at a quite affordable price per impression. PR brings that credibility. When a third-party source or a publication is talking about you, it's not just you tooting your horn about your product or service, it's someone else doing that, and that becomes a lot more powerful to a reader. And then you're also able through PR to tell stories and get more than just a landing page and copy. And so when you tell a story, you're able to emotionally connect with a customer. And once you've made that emotional connection, it's so much easier to sell to them. They might overlook some of your major flaws as well, but if you've connected with them on a pain point on the top end of the funnel, it just makes them so much more loyal to your company and brand. And then another favorite kind of top of the funnel tactic is influencer marketing. And so I think a lot of people think about influencers as fashion bloggers with 100,000 followers on their Instagram. But I think influencers can be also really powerful on the B2B side. And we used to call them key opinion leaders, but you can think about influencers within any industry as someone who has a certain group or audience who has specific leverage or power based on their position in the industry. And having them as a third-party credible source talking about your product or service and sharing about it can be ultra powerful to convince customers as well.
So PR is a really fascinating subject to me because it's one of those marketing initiatives that can be very subjective, right? People might have different understandings of even what PR means. The budgets can be totally different. Some marketing strategists have a very conscious effort on PR and others just kind of let it happen and hope for the best. But how have you seen PR change over the past decade? And what does it mean today in 2021 to have a PR strategy? What are you actually doing for your business?
It has changed quite significantly in the last few years specifically. I think PR used to be thought of as media relations alone. And so getting an article on a major publication was what PR used to be. And I think PR has now grown into a more broad sense of general public relations. How do you reach a mass audience and tell your story? So PR now includes thought leadership, like speaking at events and conferences, for example, on the B2B side. It also includes getting awards and getting recognition for the work that you're doing. It, of course, involves media relations as well. But there's also grassroots marketing that you could look at. So for example, you could do a PR stunt where you're involving a ton of your target audience and then calling media to it. You could do more activations like events, like holding your own multi-day summit, for example. And so PR now is not just media relations, it's looking at multiple different channels and tactics to bring in a large amount of people with content that is topical, that is interesting to your target audience, and that showcases your area of expertise. And that way it makes people interested in your company and your products and services.
That's amazing. And just like media relations has kind of blended with public relations, just like you said, I find that a lot of times business brands are also merging with sometimes their founders' personal brands. And you see a lot of that happening. And that has an extension onto PR as well, right? So if you are a founder, then you also are a personal brand, not just your company is a brand of its own. And you could be recognized for something. You could be participating. And in fact, you are an official member of the Forbes Communication Council. Can you speak about personal brands versus business brands and the importance of personal branding on PR and marketing?
Yeah, I think the founders and the leaders of a company can be very powerful advocates for your company. And so specifically in service-based companies, you're selling a service which is very tied to the people. And so it's important that people trust that person and can understand their expertise. And so what better way to show that expertise than speaking at conferences and doing some thought leadership activities or commenting on articles that are talking about topical things in your industry. And so especially from a service-based company, the personal brands of your leaders become really important. And even in a product-based company, you start to think about partnerships, sales opportunities, and those become even stickier if you're able to get people to understand your area of expertise. And so even on a product-based company, having a CEO who builds a personal brand can attract other companies to work with you. It can also attract talent and other top leaders. And so it's so important that everyone on a leadership level starts to think about their personal brand, how they're engaging with the audience, and whether that's using LinkedIn, it could be writing for different publications, it could be creating your own blog, you could even create your own podcast. But all of these things are great ways for you to showcase your areas of expertise.